Is it going to be Sportsman's Guide? Alright, do a Sportsman's Guide.
I have already done as many videos today as I can do. And I'm not making another ad, even if it is for Sportsman's Guide, who pays us well. Use code WARPOET, and my heart's not in it. It's a good deal, it's good savings, you should go, but my heart's not in it. I'm too tired, and all I want to do is surf the gram for memes and play with this knife.
What kind of savings can you expect?
Good ones.
How good?
Shut up.
Really good.
All right, what's happening, folks? I'm joined with Evan Temple. Evan is one of the founding members of Warrior Poet Society, so he's actually kind of running everything while I'm out.
It's good to be here.
It's good. It's good to be here, man. I was getting my workout on this morning, and I was listening to the Democratic primaries, and everybody is absolutely insane crazy. And I wanted to talk about civil war around the corner. I'm not one of those guys personally. Evan, I want to hear your thoughts too. On impending apocalypse, coming down from the clouds tomorrow, civil war, anything. I'm like, hey, there's a rift in our country. There's a big divide, and that divide has gotten worse and worse exponentially over the last 5 years or so. And now it seems like just an insurmountable chasm as left and right are so polarized. It's bad, guys. It's really bad. I think other countries are way worse.
Yeah, our country is becoming so polarized that ideological shift from the middle, we've got people far left, far right, and people are picking their sides, and they're not wanting to really give on any of these topics. So yeah, it's coming. It's potential right now. I don't think I'm like you. I don't think it's right around the corner. But with this progression and movement from logic, yeah, we'll get there eventually.
And there's some things that were happening right now that's not like a few years ago, but it is different right now. That gives me a little bit of pause to say we may be closer than I thought. Who knows? And some of that has to do with where it's no longer just, hey, you're a bigot, you're a racist, you're terrible, you're excrement of the earth. Now it's, we're going to come door to door and take your AR-15s. And I'm talking, of course, about Francis O'Rourke. I think that's where all of this was ultimately going. But now all of a sudden it's at our doorstep. And I'm like, man.
Francis.
Francis. There's certain things that if you push the American citizen to a point, they'll say, I'm not going any farther. And I think a few of those, or at least one major one, is the gun stuff, Second Amendment stuff. I think old Beto has a radically naive notion that Americans will just give up I think there's more guns in the U.S. than people. And it's just...
But it's the way he's phrasing it. He's not going to allow you or me to have a rifle or a gun like that.
Good luck,
and this idea that he can dictate that, that's where that shift is happening. People aren't saying, let's have a debate over it, let's come to an idea and let's make a good government decision based on that. They're just saying, no, hell no, we're taking your guns.
Right, screw due process, screw the Second Amendment, screw all this stuff of like, we're coming for them. I'm like, man, those are fighting words. And when you basically take the American citizen, back them into a corner enough, they'll say, hey, revolution has always been in our blood. We're a country founded at war and revolution and dissent. And so I'm like, man, regardless of how far we've gotten from our upbringing, from our forebears, that still, I think that passion still runs hot in American blood. At least I hope so, or I'd be ashamed to count myself among us. Now, I'm a law-abiding citizen, and I don't want any bad stuff to happen. I don't want any violent stuff, and I'm proud to be an American in the sense that I don't think there's a country on earth with more opportunity and freedom than the United States. I have nowhere else I would rather be, even though I recognize that America is riddled with unspeakable crimes.
Of course.
Evils that are not okay, and corruption.
We're just doing it so much better than all the other countries based off of our Judeo-Christian background that sculpted our awesome country.
I couldn't agree more, but these are kind of like fighting words when we get to hear of like the audacity of the left to say you may not.
Is it even practically possible? That's the real question.
Do you think it is possible for a gun confiscation to even happen?
With hundreds of millions of guns in the United States and the culture that we have now, no way. It would take armies. And of course, by then, the states would have fractured into their factions and a war would break out. It is, in my opinion, impractical, impossible to do.
It's funny that the New Zealand gun buyback, guys, this is also a mandatory buyback. And by the way, a government can't buy something back that it never owned in the first place. Buybacks don't work.
With your money.
With you. Ah! Sound outrageous. I'm like, we're going to buy back the guns that we never owned. And to do that, we're going to tax you. And so I have to give you my money.
There it is.
So that you can give my money back and I give you the gun. I'm like, you can't do a buyback. Anyway, New Zealand gun buyback. What was it? Less than 1%.
Yeah, nobody turned in.
No one turned in their guns. And old Beto's like, yeah, America will do it. I'm like, man, America's not giving you crap.
No.
Nothing.
No.
And so I don't think that would work just because the sheer volume.
Right.
And when we look at different countries, we don't have any data to even compare to. No one even has close to the amount of guns.
Right.
And it's so built into our DNA too, of its Second Amendment, the guarantor of the First Amendment. So I think you're right. I don't.
Yeah, and we're tired of this empathetic appeal to empathy and tolerance and saying, hey, we're trying to take your guns to help the kids that are dying in the mass shootings. It's never been about that. It's never gonna be about that. And we can hear the lie inside of there where they're saying, hey, we're just gonna help these kids, and all we have to do is take all of your weapons that were never used for those things, instead of fixing the problem of the active shooters in the first place.
I like that the conservative right is getting our statistics in line to combat some of this just leftist lying propaganda stuff regarding all the gun deaths. I forget the exact number, but per year in the United States, there's something less than 300, somewhere in like the 260s that are killed by all rifles put together. That's gun murders. That's not suicides or anything like that. So you look at that. Hammers were far more fatal. Everything's more fatal
terrible
than
way to
guns.
go.
And so it's just it's manipulative, it's wrong, it's terrible. And when all of a sudden you start saying gun confiscation and then you actually go about doing that, man, that's
and don't
really
bring that logic to the argument. It's all about emotions and feelings right now. And that's a big problem. We're leaving the logical train of thought for the emotional appeal. And we're having a logical breakdown, and we need that renaissance to come back so that people can think dispassionately and make educated choices for our country.
I would love that too, and I might as well just say, and no more sinning. I mean, it's such an ideological wish list of we need a renaissance, we need a reformation, we need a revolution. I'm like, I don't think that we even have the capacity morally and mentally
Possibly not.
to even have that internal mechanism that would bring about revolution or reformation.
Hopefully this next round of elections will bring something like that if America gets pissed off enough to say, hey, we're tired of LA and New York leading the country in thought and voting, and maybe we can have a few more years of quality morals and values that we based our country on forever. Or it could fall apart and we could run into something like we're talking about today.
Good point. I would like to say leading the country in thought. I'm like, I think they're leading the country in loud hysteria, and sometimes they get their way because, like a petulant child, ultimately the squeakiest wheel gets the oil.
They do.
And that's kind of what's going on. But at some point people say, hey, enough crazy. What would it take for do you think gun confiscation would even be possible? You said it'd take armies, but the very first thing is say, hey, you must. And then all of a sudden, like New Zealand, the United States was like, yeah, but no, we're not going to do that. Then the next thing is all of a sudden, everyone becomes a criminal overnight. What would that do for rule of law, I wonder? They say, hey, if you have guns and you don't give them in, now you're a felon.
Yeah, well, people are drawing their lines and saying they're like, this is the amount of gun confiscation I'll allow. Obviously, silencers and machine guns have gone, but they're saying, hey, I'm not going to give up my 15-round mag or 30-round mag. Or people are saying you're going to have to come take them, and yeah, that's when people really put their foot down. And how close are we? I don't know, but we're closer than we've ever been.
What I worry about is a complete breakdown in the rule of law, which I don't want. There'd be so many deaths. That's an anarchist pipe dream.
We don't want that.
And the anarchist dreams of greener pastures, thinking if we could just get rid of all government. I'm like, man, it'd be bedlam. It'd be mayhem. You just literally millions of people dead in the streets. History's tried anarchy over and over and over. It works never. Not even for like 30 seconds has anarchy a good
trying to think of
idea.
one.
It's good for a temporary revolution, but then if you don't have a very good system, you're just kind of like, even France, and they weren't anarchy at all, but during their revolution, they just kept having all these French revolutions that kept going on in perpetuity, because once they won a revolution, they had no better, superior system to convert them to.
Right.
And so that wasn't the case in the United States. We had a great system.
Wonderful experiment in liberty.
So this is my worry, is that if all of a sudden everyone becomes a felon, everyone who has a gun, and say, I'm not giving it in. Now all of a sudden they're like, well, I'm already a criminal. What other laws would they be like? Yeah, screw them.
Right.
Eventually you'd be like, they made me a criminal. I'm already a criminal. Screw them. I guess I won't even pay taxes anymore. Taxes suck. I'm not following this law. Why not follow this law either? And so I feel like if all of a sudden you forced everyone to be a criminal, then ultimately it could possibly precipitate an entire breakdown of rule of law. And I'm not trying to be an alarmist. I'm just saying, man, there comes a tipping point. No empire, no country, no nation is secure. All of them eventually rise up and fall. That is a fact of history. And we feel like, nah, we'll be good forever. I'm like, man, the Civil War, you look at just how terribly brutal that was. Hundreds of thousands of people died, us fighting each other, and man, that really happened. That's a historical fact. Meaning it can happen, it could happen again. It requires something that was a tipping point, something no farther. And I think this is it. And old Beto doesn't realize.
No, I think we have 10 issues now that are incendiary, and people are trying to find that dividing line, and they're polarizing quickly.
What do you think would happen if, all right, old Beto says, can't have the guns, we don't give in the guns, and then all of a sudden everyone's a criminal, and then there becomes, the police would obviously be the very first people, even alluded to police. Police would come and take them. Do you think a police force has the means and the motivation to do such a thing?
Well, psychologically, we've seen over history that people, when given power like that, do take it a lot of times and use it completely wrong. So there is a possibility of that. I think Americans, though, now, if it happened now, we'd see a giant swath of them not comply with that. A lot of the military would not do it at all. I think right now, people would not comply with that. The police force and the military, they would back the gun owners. And then, of course, Texas would say, hey, we're not doing it. And thank God for states. But the farther we get from states' rights and we get to a federal, global kind of thing, it wouldn't work.
I don't think so either. I think out of all the cops that I rub shoulders with, and I mean, we're a tactical training company, so I mean, I rub shoulders with tons of cops. Usually just good dudes, and then you got some weenie bureaucrats that suck, and you got some just human excrement on police forces as well, but generally speaking, just good dudes. And like all the ones I know of, like, would you do a gun grab? Like, come on, man, are you kidding me?
And you're around them all the time.
Yeah,
this is the guy who's
especially with all the SWAT team guys, with all the special operations guys, with all the elite military guys. Ideologically, all of them seem to disagree with the left, which means the left doesn't have any teeth. The left barks a lot, but they have no teeth. The lefties are always defended. Their bodyguards are conservative gun guys, right? They're just working a job.
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah, they're gun guys. So I think the people that actually have the means, the tactical wherewithal, the intestinal fortitude that could actually take your guns, ideologically, wholesale reject gun confiscation, and they wouldn't comply. And they certainly wouldn't risk their lives for a nominal fee. Cops don't get paid enough to risk their lives. Now, if there was a complete economic disaster so that the families of the cops literally starve to death if they didn't confiscate your guns.
That would change everything.
That would change everything. But short of that, you can't get the good pipe hitters.
And even the word left, I don't think all of the left is, that far that way. A lot of them are coming back to the middle, center, even to the right, and saying, hey, even our own party's gotten a little crazy on a lot of these ideas.
Democrat, not left. So when I'm using the terms Democrat and left different. Democrats, all right, great, we'll have shades we disagree and agree with, but Republican, Democrat, we're still sane. Left, I'm saying this oddball, kooky, crazy person out here, like
Right.
Beto O'Rourke, is a radical,
Very vocal,
lefty.
very in our face right now.
Yeah, he's
in
far,
media's
he's far
attention.
removed from just Democratic Party.
Yeah.
He's way worse than that, right?
Bernie Sanders, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so I think the police gun grab, it wouldn't actually work because the guys that could do it won't, and then you're left with a bunch of weenie bureaucratic kind of cops, and they're not going to have the intestinal fortitude to do it anyway. And then if all of a sudden something did go down, and it would. Ultimately somewhere, somehow, there would be some gun grab that went, some civilian shoots back protecting their family, cops die, and then that happens just 1 or 2 times around the country. It's all a buzz. All cops are now scared to do their job, and they're saying, hey, I'm not doing this for a nominal fee. And like, you got to do that. And then the police system fails. It has to get propped up with the military, and that's like, man, once you turn military loose on the civilians, now it's legitimately a civil war. And I mean, just that would be...
That's the perpetuation of what we're seeing now necessarily.
It's
what
5
can we
steps
do to
down the
stop
line.
that, I guess? Well, where are we at currently?
Yeah.
And how does what's happening now stem that off and keep us on the
Well,
correct path?
one is to avoid ridiculous notions, just radical notions of backing someone in a corner of say, yes, we will take this, or you are not allowed to do this, especially when it's in contradiction to First and Second Amendment right of like, you can't do that. That's an illegal law you're trying to make. And as soon as it moves from, hey, we have a division of thought to we have a division and I will enforce my will upon you with violence, I'm like, that you should never go there. We've got due process. Yeah. We've got democratic processes. I didn't like Barack Obama as president, but he was still my president for 8 years because I'm an American, right? And I didn't agree with a lot of stuff, but I still complied. I had to, I'm trying to be a good law-abiding citizen and follow the law, and there's certain tipping points, certain lines where you say, do this. I'm like, I'm not doing that, bro. Come at me. Come on, old Beto. Come on, Francis. Little tiny Francis.
So it's very important he does not gain any political power after a while. Obviously, you don't want to be a political guy and you want to make good, fun gun videos.
I hate all this stuff, but warrior poets, we are freedom fighters. I don't want to jump in the political arena. Other people in our society are far more political. God love you for it. I would rather affect change on a cultural level. To just show the world of like, hey, we're lovers of people, like military guys. We're like, we want to defend people.
That's good.
We love them. I'm not looking for a fight. I don't want to fight. I want to be a good law-abiding citizen, a good neighbor and coworker and friend and family guy. That's my big goal.
Make some fun videos.
Make some fun videos with Dr. Schmetterling and have a good time. That's our heartbeat. And so we want to just make, hey, we are protectors of people, and it's sane, and it's logical, and it's loving, and it's normal. And so we'll grow the gun community through basically showing that cultural idea, rather whereas the radical left, a lot of people who don't have gun friends, they imagine that we're, Sam Houston, Bugs Bunny, just extremist, radical crazies. And we're like, we're not. We're just normal people. And we have some ideological differences, and you do you, bro. That's fine. I'm not going to
We'd like lower taxes.
I'm not going to force my will upon you, because believe me, if the left and the right starts playing a game of let's force each other's will, the right is going to have a nasty absolute decimation, because the left is anti-gun.
And they have
no
guns.
Right is not.
I don't know why they haven't factored that into the equation. Hey, one side of this equation has all the weaponry.
At its root, if the leftists have their druthers and win and make guns illegal, they have to ask the right to disarm the right.
Yeah.
Oh, so funny. You silly lefties.
It's not going to work.
Guys, I want to hear what you have to say. Obviously, we're working this out. We're just trying to play H.G. Wells and see a few miles down the road, and it's very difficult. But man, some of this bodes really, really poorly. Jump into the comments down below. Tell us what you think. Is civil war impending? What are some of the things that could precipitate that? One thing we talked about was the gun stuff. What are some other issues? What would you do in light of it? Try to keep the capsule lock key off, and as soon as you start name calling, you're like, hey, you're a moron. I'm like, well, now you're not convincing anyone.
Love all that. I say go for it.
Well, it is fun and it's helpful for our analytics because fury and rage means interaction. Share. Whatever, you're an idiot. So it's really good for our analytics, but it's not actually good in moving the needle of political discourse. You're changing no one's mind when you get on Facebook and you're like, all right, caps lock key on and you're all idiots. Like that changes no minds and it's not respectful and you're a moron for engaging in it. But anyway, guys.
Think big picture.
Big picture.
Yeah.
Very good. Guys, train hard, train smart. Make sure you subscribe to our channel, hit the notifications bell, like. You made the sound that our graphic does. Editing all the time. Forever seeing it. Guys, we'll see you next time.